19 minutes past 6. It is time to discuss Boston United. We'll hear from Craig Elliott, the Boston manager, around 6:30 this evening, so in about 10 minutes' time. But let's get the opposition view first off. Shane Wilkinson is a non-league writer and also a fan of Kidderminster. And, what did you make of last week, Shane, first?
Hi guys, thanks for having me on. It was a close game, wasn't it, last week, between two evidently very good sides. And I think although Harriers came away with a very good 2-1 win, I think all three goals really were not controversial as such, but on another day all three could have probably not happened, couldn't they? So in terms of setting it up for Saturday, it's setting up quite nicely.
And have you found that Boston were one of the better sides you've faced this year so far?
100%, yeah. It's one of the only games this season where I felt Harriers really were under the cosh for large parts of the game. We saw Jake Wright being the second top scorer, I believe, going into that game. You know, his clinical finish to get Boston level, it just showed that Craig Elliott's got a good setup there, a good team there, despite some of the glum things I've seen online. They're quite clearly one of the teams who should be in and around the top six come the end of the season, if we're fortunate enough to get that far.
There must be a real buzz around your club at the moment with what's been going on in regards to not just the league form, but the FA Cup run as well.
Oh, it's brilliant. As you say, Agra's buzzing, really. I call Harriers having a cup run once in a decade event. The last time we did it was 2013. The time before that was probably the mid-2000s. So get to the third round of the FA Cup for the first time in 8 years to pull a tie against a team who apparently they're not a cup priority team. So if that does turn out to be true and the Reading manager decides to play his under-23s, who knows? And in terms of the league form, Boston have been down in the National North with us for some time now. We've struggled the last few years, so to get back up to that top six where we want to be, it's a refreshing change, a nice change, and there's a real togetherness now at the club, which as fans, it's all you want, isn't it? And we can then replicate that onto the pitch.
So bearing in mind that the great form that you've got in those two competitions, how do you as a club, do you think, treat the FA Trophy? Because usually it's a great way of getting through to a Wembley final, but because you've got so much on your plate, do you think it might take a back seat, a back step?
That's something I've had internal debates for since the draw, really. Harriers have rich FA Trophy history, won it before, lost in the first game at the new Wembley against Stevenage, as some of us may remember. We're in a great run of form in the Cup, a great run of form in the league, but as we saw last year with Hornchurch at step 4 and Hereford of our league, as you say, it's a great chance to get to a Wembley final. Now, if we take into consideration the current situation in the country, we've seen all these top-tier games getting called off for COVID. Would it be that unreasonable to suggest that in a month or so time the only competitions you'll be playing in are these FA affiliated ones? So if you throw away the FA Trophy, we've thrown away a chance to keep your season alive if, like last season, everything has to get cut short. But you have to understand as well, we've had a couple of tired performances, so could we want to sacrifice it for the league? I wouldn't want to be Russ Penn and Jimmy O'Connor making that decision, I know that much.
And the thing is as well, you say you've had a game in midweek. Boston had a blank midweek. How much of an effect do you think that's going to play in your team selection tomorrow?
I think it'll play a role. We looked a bit tired on Tuesday night. I was there for the game against Curzon Ashton, and it was a tired and jaded performance with just the one change. So for Saturday, I think the general feeling among the fan base would be, I think we'd be disappointed if we didn't change 3 or 4 personnel up, but we also believe we've got the strength in depth to cope if we do that. So I think managed rotation, I think, could be the phrase to use. With rest a couple of bodies, but without weakening the team too much, which again is what every manager wants to do, isn't it?
One thing, obviously, we try and ask, and we don't really get a chance to chat to away supporters who head to Boston often, but what have you made of Boston Stadium last week for a first visit?
To be honest, I thought it's a little bit flat in terms of the general atmosphere, but I have to say I can see how it could get bouncing. Well, I have to say as well, the setup that the club have got with Ellender's, I thought the Ellender's bar was superb. Well, it could be a real money spinner for the club if utilised correctly, like they did last Saturday. The ground, obviously, I know it's still in progress, isn't it? So maybe I'm being a little bit harsh in my appraisal of it. But again, I can certainly see that when everybody gets behind the team and gets used to making that trip to the new ground, I'm sure it'll be bouncing. And the best way to get that new stadium bouncing is to get a winning team on the pitch. And as I alluded to earlier, I know there's a couple of grumbles online about Craig Elliott, but if come April, May, and the Pilgrims are up in third or fourth, I'm sure the Jakeman's Community Stadium there will be absolutely rocking.
I'm sure it will. Shane, have a safe trip back up to Lincolnshire for the second consecutive Saturday. Appreciate you joining us this evening on the